Yo, how you guys doing? It's your boy Beasley back at it again with episode 3, 4, 5. I don't know. I'm recording these out of order now because you guys have absolutely exploded and nuked that like button. The views, the support for the series has, exploded in the last 2, 3 days. So from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all the wonderful comments. I love reading. I try to read as many as I can, but between YouTube, bugging, and all sorts of stuff, some do filter through the cracks. If you do not have your comment answered and you have any, questions, tips, tricks, I stream every single day around 6 o'clock CST, whether it's, this game or other games, just stop by the stream. Anyways, shameless plug out the way. Episode 3, I think. This episode will be predicated on the impact of playbooks, both offense and defense, and several other tips. So if you learn anything new from any of my videos or this video, smash a like, leave a comment, and let me know how I have or haven't impacted your Dynasty experience. So for starters, as you can see, I am the Georgia Bulldogs. I have a specific head coach with no perks. I picked Motivator because I always do, but I'm not going to buy anything, so it really doesn't matter. I have recruiting on auto, player progression on auto, everything on auto, so we're not going to be doing any of that. The point of this video, and as you can see from team schedule, right, there is no forced wins, there is no forced losses. This is just the Georgia schedule with their 3 out of conference being randomized. Because to make it a little more entertaining, I re-randomize their schedule, but that only does their out of conference, not their in conference. But anyways, what is the point? So I'm going to sim to week 15, which is the end of this season. Again, with no cuts, no edits, nothing. That way I'm not going to have the obligatory guy in the comments, well, of course you go 16-0, streamer. You force win all of your games. Like, I every day people do amaze me at how just little they know. But you know what? It's fine. Reading the funny comments does get, watered down by the hundreds of amazing comments. So I appreciate y'all. But yeah, this is going to be me simming with the best team in the game, right? When you start your Dynasty, Georgia has a 94 offense, a 96 defense. They're the best team in the game. And you're going to see, live with me, again, I have no forced wins. As you saw, I showed you the thing before the, sim even started. And I'm going to show you just how impactful playbooks, both offense and defense are, and how impactful aggression is in this game. Those two things can single-handedly be the difference of you going in 16-0 or you going like 6-6 or like 2-12. Or 2-12. I can't do math. 2-10. But you get the point. Playbooks factor in way too much. And in my opinion, I think playbooks factor in too much. Right? If you've played Madden for a long time, you know that there's been some glitchy playbooks. Cowboys for the last, 2022 to like 2020. Actually, wait, was it like 2021 to like 2023? Either way, the Cowboys had a couple of glitchy playbooks in Madden. The Chiefs had a couple of glitchy playbooks and all sorts of like stuff like that. Playbooks low-key trump stats and abilities, which I don't like. But as you can see, boom, bop, bam, no editing, no cuts, no silly work, none of that, shenanigans. We went 4-8. Specifically, we went 2-6 in conference with a 94 overall team. 94 overall team, 94 offense, 96 defense. Beastly, how in the world did you win 4 games with the Georgia Bulldogs, the best team in the game, off start, How'd you do that? Well, unfortunately, I ran really bad playbooks. And I'm going to show you, examples of bad playbooks and good playbooks, just to give you a little idea here. But what playbooks, actually, before I do that, let's go check out our stats. How bad were our stats? Our quarterback had 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. Our running back had decent stats, 1,100 yards. Our fullback had a bunch of yards. Our quarterback had a bunch of yards. You can kind of guess what playbook I just used for the fullback getting a bunch of yards. W. Check out our defense. We had a pass rusher do pretty well. Specifically, our DT do very well, but the rest kind of did bad. And we had a couple corners do well. But we went 4-8, which is not good. Let's go check out our team stats. How bad was bad? Survey says, let's go filter by the SEC first. How bad were we in the SEC? In terms of points per game, we had the worst points per game at 24 points. We also scored the least amount of total points in 292. We also scored the least amount of offensive yards with a 94 overall team. Worst defense, our defense did pretty well, but to be fair, they're at 96 overall, so I hope the 96 does decently well. We got like what, 1, 2, actually wait. Oh, I'm so just dumb, I'm reading this wrong. Our defense was like the wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, our defense was the 6th worst defense. I apologize. I'm marginally tired. Just got off of work. Anyways, yeah, we had the bottom 6 defense, right? Auburn had the best. Oklahoma, you see the list right here. In total points allowed, we allowed. Oh my God, this was a bottom 5 defense. Good Lord, our defense was fucking cheeks. We allowed the 3rd most offensive yards. Good Christ. Yeah, I'm so glad I noticed. I was reading that backwards. Yeah, our offense was abysmal, and our defense was abysmal. Why was that? Even though we have a yoked roster filled with so many super studs? Well, the answer was I was running the worst playbooks in the game. And those playbooks were pretty much any option playbook, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force. Listen, right? I have many people in my family that are, in the armed service. I have mad respect for our troops. Love them, but their playbooks, cheeks. Do not ever use any option playbook. They are bad. And then specifically for the defensive playbooks, from my testing, I've done about 300 seasons so far in this game. Around 300, maybe a little under 250, but I've done a lot, more or less. I've done a lot of season. From my experience, the 2 worst defenses, whether you're playing in sim or you're playing as like in game, easily has to be the 3-2-6 defense and the 3-3-5 base defense. These 2 defenses suck. And I don't want the video to drag on to be like 4 hours long, but to give you a small reason why these defenses suck in both sim and actually playing, in the 3-2-6, you get 3 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 6 DBs. And if you don't know how like the game is played or how like mechanics work, basically in Madden for the last like 8 or so years, and it's in CFB too, there's this thing called weak boxing. And what a weak box is when you have more offensive linemen and tight ends on the field than the opponent has defensive linemen and linebackers to match. So if you ever play online head-to-head, or if you play, the computer, because weak boxing is a universal mechanic, if you ever play the game and the opponents, they snap the ball, and let's say they're in goal line or they're in any formation that has a ton of tight ends on the field, and you snap the ball and like half your team falls over and they get a 1-play touchdown, you're like, huh, why'd that happen? That's because they had more offensive linemen and tight ends than you had linebackers or defensive linemen. Secondly, the other funny thing about weak boxing, aside from giving you free pancakes, is all of your corners and safeties get like a -20 speed debuff. Like, you click onto them and try to user them, they'll move slow as molasses. They'll be so fucking slow. And the reason why is it's a net penalty. So even if you don't instantly get pancaked, you're not supposed to make the tackle. And if you're curious why EA Sports did this back in the, not to bore you guys for the history of Madden, but for probably my entire life, the meta defense was dime, dollar, and some variation of nickel. Because basically back in the day, you could sub, safeties at linebackers, safeties at corners, and safeties at safeties, and people would come out in the most diabolical, you think mid blitz is bad? Some of you guys really don't know about the meta. Shout out all my gamers who play Madden who remember the was it Mike Scrape 3 blitz? Jesus Christ, that was like from what, Madden 18 or 19 or like Madden 20? Mike Scrape blitz, the DB Fire blitz that's still in the game. It's pretty good, but it used to be so much better. There have been so many more disgusting nano blitzes because back in the day they actually were nanos. The reason why it's called a nano blitz was because you would snap the ball and a player would glitch the game and just run and sack your quarterback without being touched. Now there's things in the game to inhibit this. Now if your player comes through unblocked too fast, they'll like dumb out and start crab walking. That's a feature to kind of nerf that. But either way, stuff does come through. And the point of all this long yapping is that there was way too many people who won way too many tournaments coming out in sets that had like 7 or 8 corners on the field or safeties on the field, and they were blowing up offensive linemen, right? You couldn't call stretch, you couldn't call dive, you couldn't call toss, you couldn't call a single run play, because essentially the corners and safeties that were on the field were so fast, they would just run around the lineman and tackle the running back. In real life, if you have an entire defense filled with people who weigh less than 200 pounds, and they try to tackle someone who's over 200 pounds or 300 pounds, normally they fall over. Like, go watch a highlight reel of offensive linemen just destroying corners and safeties. There's a reason why most of them just, like, run away, because they don't want to get they're depleted on the field. That's why this defense sucks. You have 3 defensive linemen and 2 linebackers, which means most of the time you have 5 total people on the defense who can stop the run, which means even if you call the most generic, the most vanilla, the most bland offense in the game, which is 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back, 1 quarterback, 5 linemen, that set, and called inside zone, you have 5 linemen, versus 5 defensive players who can stop the run, right? You're on paper, you're even, but you're not really because you have a tight end, as you guessed it. So there you go. Even in the most vanilla defense in the world, or offense, excuse me, you have 5 linemen, 1 tight end, which is 6. On defense, you have 3 D linemen and 2 linebackers, which is 5. 5 is smaller than 6, therefore the offense get a bonus. And there's like so many other ways you could do this. Like example, if you come out in a heavy tight set with like 2 or 3 tight ends, and the number gets even worse. Let's say there's like 5 linemen plus 3 tight ends, that number is 8, and they come out in a 3-2-6 set, they're just gonna get just ran over. So just don't do that. That's why this defense sucks. If you play in a conference of people who run the ball like the SEC, you will get just destroyed. This defense is abysmal. Next defense that is awful in Sim is very similar, ironically, to the 3-2-6. It's a little better, which is the reason why I have it ranked just 1 spot higher than the 3-2-6, but it's not better by much. It's the regular 3-3-5 defense. Essentially, the difference between regular 3-3-5 defense and 3-3-5 tight is that on the regular 3-3-5, you have basically your D tackle and your 2 D ends on the field. With 3-3-5 tight, you have your nose tackle on the field with possibly an extra D tackle, and then that 1 extra spot rotates between defensive ends and D tackle. So for a 3-3-5 tight, you can adjust your personnel to have extra big boys on the field to help mitigate the run, whereas with regular 3-3-5, you can't do that. So just for context, you will still get ran on in this formation. However, you'll get ran on less because, again, 3 D linemen is 3, 3 linebackers is 3, that equals 6. If you call a play with 5 linemen and 1 tight end, 6 equals 6, therefore there is no weak boxing. So 3-3-5 regular is slightly better than 3-2-6, but it's still shit. If you're calling a 3-2-6 defense, or you're calling a regular 3-3-5, you're doing that for stopping the pass, not the run. So if you're playing someone who runs the ball, you are absolutely fried. That's both in-game and in Sim. So just try to avoid these 2 defenses like the plague. They're really bad. As you saw, Georgia has arguably the best secondary in the game off launch, off rip, and we won 4 games. Our defense was bottom 3, bottom 5. Our defense was abysmal, and same thing with our offense. So overall, all that stuff, stats, abilities, mean nothing if your playbooks suck. Next, every other defense that's not the 3-2-6 or the base 3-3-5, I'm going to call in the average category or the mid category, where they pretty much all play the exact same. These defenses include, but are not limited to, the base 3-4, the 4-2-5, which, by the way, got giga nerfed. This was the best defense in CFB last year, and it makes me so sad that this defense got so nerfed. It's still pretty decent if you know what you're doing in online head-to-head, but in terms of Sim, this playbook was so much better last year. They nerfed it to high hell. But yeah, the base 3-4 mid, the 4-2-5 mid, the 3-4 multiple defense is mid. The 3-3-5 tight defense also got giga nerfed. This was the second best defense in the game last year, and it got nerfed in Sim. And multiple defense is mid. The base 4-3 defense is mid. The base 3-3-5 defense is, as we mentioned, terrible. And there you go. So as you notice, 2 defenses are abysmal, and then a bunch are average. But I left out 1 defense in particular. That is the multiple 4-3. I can't explain why. I don't know why, but for some reason, when you slap on the multiple 4-3 defense, your players play the way they're meant to be played. I can't explain it. I have no idea why it's this defense, but in certain defensive formations or certain packages, sometimes your outside linebacker will be sub to D end, and you'll notice your pass coverage linebacker is getting like 20 sacks. He's not supposed to be, rushing the passer, but he does. I don't know why certain defenses bug, they break. Depth charts break every single day. I'll cover that in this video as well. It's just super buggy, but for some reason, the 4-3 multiple, your linebackers traditionally will be regular linebackers. They will play the run and the pass. Yes, they will still get sacks because they do get blitzed in this defense, but you're not going to have your 99 overall God Squad DN get like 2 sacks and then some random 80 overall linebacker with like 25 sacks. That's not going to happen with this defense. Traditionally speaking, your players will play the way they're supposed to play. Right? Your pressure will mostly come from your D-line. Your interceptions will mostly come from your secondary, such as safeties or corners. And your linebackers will mostly tackle and or make sacks or interceptions every now and then. But primarily, for some reason, this is the most balanced playing defense in the game. Again, I'll show you guys. I'm going to swap the playbooks, keep the team the exact same, Sim to next year, and you'll see the difference is astonishing. But that was a good 15-minute yap session about defense. Beastly, what about offense? In my opinion, there are basically 3 playbooks in the game that, if you've watched any of my streams, I yap about constantly. So whether it's 1A, 1B, and 1C, depending on where you feel, you can have different flavors for the different times of the month. But generally speaking, all 3 of these playbooks you can't go wrong with. It just depends on what you're looking for statistically. So in my opinion, I prefer my quarterbacks to have a high amount of passing yards and passing touchdowns. I like Ohio State spread. Now, Ohio State spread does have read options. It has ways of getting the quarterback's yards. So if you have a dual threat or a backfield creator or any mobile quarterback, if you check the after season report, that man will get some touchdowns, right? It'll happen. But generally speaking, most of this offense will come from your quarterback throwing the ball to your Jeremiah Smith clone, which obviously when you're using the playbook, they have design plays specifically made for Jeremiah Smith. So as long as you get one good quarterback in this playbook and one good receiver, you will notice that one receiver will get force-fed like crazy. I will have examples in the video. Don't you worry. I don't just yap. I show and I talk. So this is my 1A, right? This is in my opinion, my favorite playbook in the game. However, there is 2 other playbooks that I would argue are just as good. It just depends on what style you want to play in simulation. Now, obviously, if you're playing these games physically, use whatever playbook has the best plays. I prefer Michigan when I'm actually playing the game, but that's just, again, in-game versus sim are kind of different situations. So if you guys would like to see a video of me covering in-game stuff about what I do when I'm on the field, not off the field, let me know in the comments down below. But yeah, Ohio State's my 1A. Next, my 1B is, if I can find it soon, my 1B is Clemson. Clemson, I swear, I don't know what is up with this playbook. Maybe they're going to nerf it in real life, considering Clemson is doing absolute hot garbage in real life. But Clemson is an air raid offense. Clemson, for some reason, their quarterback, Cate Klubnik, wins the Heisman in most of my rebuilds year 1 every single year. Right? It's disgusting how often Cate Klubnik wins the Heisman. That's because Clemson's playbook has a ton of RPOs, screens, and really safe passes. And if you're curious, what does that mean? When you're throwing a lot of safe passes, essentially your quarterback will build a bunch of fluff stats. So it's not uncommon in the Clemson playbook to have a quarterback with 70 or 80% completion percentage, strictly because they're throwing a lot of very high completable passes. What we also notice is by playing the game like that, you're not throwing any interceptions. So it's pretty common for the Clemson playbook where your quarterback will throw between 30 and 50 touchdowns and between 0 and 5 picks. I can't tell you the amount of times in all my rebuilds and all my streams the Clemson quarterback wins the Heisman. Dude will throw for an incredible amount of yards, no interceptions, a bunch of touchdowns. It's dumb. So in my opinion, Ohio State's my 1. They're a spread. Clemson's my 2. They're an air raid. If you're gonna notice a trend here with these playbooks, there's gonna be a big factor in here. And then in my opinion, the 3rd best playbook in the game is Duke's Veer and Shoot. All 3 of these playbooks, if you haven't noticed, have something in common. That is passing. In my opinion, passing in this game is significantly better than running. I have yet to see any successful team with primarily a running playbook ever do good in sim. Even if you give them the most yoked offensive line, the most juiced tight ends, the most juiced running backs, they just don't do well. I can't explain why, but even in Ohio State's playbook, which is primarily a passing playbook, you'll see my running back still gets like 14 or 1,500 yards and like 20 touchdowns. When your offense is clicking, everyone's going to kind of feast, but I don't know why the running playbooks don't do better at running. It's weird that passing playbooks have better rushing stats than rushing playbooks. I don't make the game, unfortunately, I just play it, but yeah, Duke's Veer and Shoot is very good. In most of my rebuilds, if you don't go in the ACC, so if you primarily build anyone that's not an ACC school, Duke will go 16-0 several times. I got examples I can show you, don't worry, but Duke will go 16-0 so much. If you're curious why their offense is a pass-heavy Veer and Shoot, and I believe their defense is also a multiple 4-3, or it's like a base 4-3, so it's something like that, but yeah, they'll go 16-0 regularly. Duke normally in like year 3, year 4, year 5 of rebuilds becomes like a super juggernaut. I don't know how or why, but yeah, Duke's playbook's very good. But now here's the big caveat. So I just gave you basically playbook A, playbook B, playbook C. All of them are very good. They will win you many games, win many Heismans, yada, yada, yada. But here's the pill that a lot of people don't want to swallow. It's less about the playbook being Duke or Clemson or Ohio State and more about the archetype of the playbook. As you can see, it has next to it veer and shoot, spread, and air raid. Most of the playbooks in this game don't differ that differently from their base archetype. Meaning, most air raids are going to perform the exact same way in Sim. Most veer and shoot playbooks will perform about the same way in Sim. Most spreads will perform about the same. So whether you're using the Oregon spread or the Ohio State spread or using Duke's veer and shoot versus USF's veer and shoot, generally speaking, the veer and shoots are going to relatively perform equally. Now you can argue that Duke's veer and shoot is the best because of XYZ. Ohio State's the best spread because of XYZ. Clemson's the best spread or best air raid because of XYZ. I'm sure if I did like a super hard deep dive and checked out every singular play in every playbook, I could find you why. But generally speaking, if you want to successfully pass the ball, find a veer and shoot, find a spread, find an air raid, specifically one of the 3 playbooks I listed above, you will notice your players start winning Heismans, and it's even not just Heismans. Your receivers will win pretty much every award there is, the Fred Biletnikovs and everything else. Your D linemen will win every award. Hell, there was a moment in my stream last night where I pretty much won every single award at Rice doing my Rice rebuild in one season. My quarterback won 4 awards. My receiver won an award. My DN won 2 or 3 awards. It was pretty much, I won every award there was in the game. It was just insane to watch. The next thing we're going to cover in this video, because this is not really pertaining to playbooks, but while we're on the screen, I'm going to yap about it. So there you go. Alma maters. I've been asked several times by several people across my streams and my videos, what does this do? This does not impact recruiting. If anyone tells you this impacts recruiting, click off their video. They have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. This does not impact pipelines. If they tell you it does, click off their video. This only impacts one thing and one thing only. That is your next coaching job. So if you're doing a rebuild, like I'm doing with my Rice on stream, by the way, every day, 6 o'clock CST, shameless plug, there you go. I'm not leaving Rice. The point of the rebuild is to rebuild Rice. I'm not leaving Rice. So for me, I can have the alma mater as whatever I want. It doesn't matter. But if you plan or intend on ever moving schools, so if you're doing the Georgia coach cheese strat, where you're getting like hundreds of tokens at like reduced prices and you're doing that cheese strat to have like a giga steroid coach, wherever you plan on going after the Georgia cheese strat, pick that as your alma mater. So if you want to, you'll say your favorite team in the game's Alabama, right? Shout out you know who you are. You're getting a reference on my video. But yeah, let's say your favorite team's Alabama, and you want to do the Georgia cheese strat. You could go to Georgia for 2 or 3 years, get your top 5 recruiting classes, get all your cheese perks, become super yoked, super steroided, super buffed, and then just set your alma mater to Bama, and then every single offseason, Bama has an increased chance of hiring you. Now, obviously, if you're trying to go to a successful school like Georgia or Ohio State or, Bama, you're going to kind of need that coach to suck a little bit, right? Like, Bama's not going to hire you if Bama goes 16-0. Why would they fire their head coach who's doing well? Now, this next part is kind of morally up to you, but to me, I don't really care. If I want to go somewhere, like, for example, my favorite team's the Florida Gators, and I'm doing a rebuild where I'm not already at Florida, I will make that coach the season before I want to go to Florida. I'll make that coach go 0-12, make him lose every game, and then he'll get instantly fired, and I'll just fill his spot. You could argue the, merit of forcing losses and forcing wins, but generally speaking, if I want to go somewhere, I'm going to go there. Like, it's my solo offline dynasty. I will do what I want. But yeah, there you go. Already covered pipelines. Demeanor, this is literally just how your coach acts on the field when there's an interception, when you win the game or lose the game. That's all this does. So pick whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Stance, same thing. Play sheet, hands on knees, classic. This is, again, a reaction to how your coach plays on the field. Pick whatever you want. Make yours as unrealistic or realistic. These don't really matter anything at all. So with adaptive AI, this is not how your team plays. It's how the AI plays around you. I got a lot of questions about how this works, and a lot of people don't know how it works, and I don't blame you because EA was very strict at the words they use to explain how this does, especially in the one blog post they ever spoke about it. So all of these archetypes like balance pressure, flexible play caller, mad scientist, all of these things don't impact how your team plays. It's how the AI plays around you. but specifically how the AI then plays around you. So for example, I like balanced pressure, and the reason why I like the adaptive AI on balanced pressure is because it's almost a 50-50 split between passing and rushing, and almost a 50-50 split between blitzing and not blitzing. So it's pretty much the vanilla, the default, the most basic experience you could have. The opposite on the end of the spectrum is Mad Scientist. Mad Scientist is the exact opposite, where it'll be as crazy as humanly possible. What does that mean, Beastly? The AI will go for fake field goals on you. The AI will go for fake punts. The AI will go for 2-point conversions. The AI will just do wacky and unpredictable crazy shit, which does make it more fun for like YouTube series and streams. But I don't like Mad Scientists because a lot of the times when the AI goes for these crazy off-the-wall plays, most of the time it results in a bad outcome, which then gives me kind of a freebie, right? Like if the opponent goes for a fake punt on a 4th and 5, I'm not that worried about my players tackling a punter on a 4th and 5, right? 4th and inches, different story, but 4th and 5, I'm not. Or like you go for a fake field goal, if it's like a 4th and 3, 4th and 4, and you're going for a fake field goal, I'm not worried about your kicker throwing the ball, 5 yards. I'm just not. So in my experience, most of the time it'll actually hinder the AI, not help them, but it does spice the game up. A reactive schemer, the opponent, the computer will call plays that counters your plays. So if you call the same play over and over again, like halfback stretch, for example, the AI will call plays to counter that one play. So it kind of forces you to diversify your play, portfolio. Matchup oriented is exactly what it sounds like. Your best corner will follow, or excuse me, their best corner will follow your best receiver. Their best linebacker will follow your tight end. Best defensive lineman will be on your best offensive lineman. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. You don't really need a lot of explanation for these, but just in case, if you want them, I'll probably have it linked in the description down below of the blog post that covers it. But ground control, exactly what it sounds like. The AI will run the ball more than it'll pass the ball. It'll try and, consume clock and be the ball control offense. System coach, this one is very interesting to me. So when you have the adaptive AI set to system coach, they will only call plays that are their default scheme. So for example, if the coach you're playing is a 3-4 defense, the coach will only call 3-4 defenses. If your coach you're going against has the offense of a veer and shoot, it'll only call plays that are designed for the veer and shoot, which sounds cool. But the downside to this adaptive AI is because there's no flexibility, it can only choose what it already does well. Example, if you pass the counter to the 3-4, 3 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers is passing. Most linebackers can't keep up with receivers and or athletic tight ends or running backs. So if you want to counter the 3-4, just pass the ball. But so if you come out in 5 wide will eat up 3-4. The issue, the AI, if you have it set to this, can't change, right? Normally you match receivers to corners. So if you're coming out in a set that has 3 or 4 receivers, I'm going to come out in a set that has 3 or 4 of my corners. With this system in place, you can't do that. So on paper, having your coach only call plays equal to your, thing sounds great. But because I know the game as well as I do, I could exploit this so easily and drop 75 points a game, and that's not very fun. So, again, I'm not going to waste any more of this video, yapping about this. If you guys want, again, the EA response, I'll have the blog post linked in the description. But just know, this impacts how the other team plays you, not the other way around. This is zero impact on how your team plays. Next, the no-huddle style. I always have this set to balanced because I think, you know what, I'm going to refrain from speaking in absolutes here. I think balanced is the best, but I have not done enough testing on aggressive or conservative to be able to tell you if it's good or bad. But from my experience with the aggressiveness sliders, which we're going to cover momentarily, the more aggressive you are, the worse things become. So with that logic, if I set my no huddle to aggressive, I would presume my quarterback will fumble more, my quarterback will throw more interceptions, my running back will fumble more, my offensive line will get tired more, they will get hurt because of wear and tear. Just, that's an assumption. I've not, again, tested this enough to have a concrete, but with aggressiveness, I know how this works. This, I do not. So assuming how this works is reflective to how this works. Aggressive will hurt you, and conservative will also hurt you, so just keep it at balanced. But this is TBD, to be determined. Next, aggressiveness. This is insane. I've been fiddling with this so much, and again, I got proof for all the stuff I'm yapping about, don't you worry. Actually, down below, leave in the comments the 100, red emoji. That's how I know you've watched this far into the video. Drop that comment down below. Or whatever hell, the 100%, you youngins know what I mean. I'm kind of an unk at this point, super old. But you get the point, the red 100 emoji. This is by default on 50, and from all of my testing, you actually do need to change your aggressiveness for a very specific reason, and I'm going to show you that reason right now. So for all the people who are curious, this season in, what am I in, 2041, I don't know, whatever season I'm in. In this season of my East Carolina rebuild that I do, I was fiddling with the aggressiveness. So against Liberty, I, destroyed them 51-0 or 51-10. Georgia Southern, I smashed them 83-0. FCS West, 66-7. And I'm going to stop reading the numbers. You can pause the video and see them yourself. I blew out Wisconsin. I destroyed North Carolina. I destroyed Minnesota. I destroyed Rutgers. I destroyed Michigan. I dropped an 80 burger 2 times this year. I put 80 points on Georgia Southern, and I put 80 points on UTSA. I beat Iowa 62-0. They were just fucking murdered. But notice for Ohio State, I almost lost to Ohio State. How can my 99 overall Giga Buff God Squad almost lose to Ohio State? And then I went back to blowing out North Carolina. Well, on all of these games I played right here, my aggressiveness was set to 75. For the Ohio State game, it was also set to 75. And as you'll see, the game I almost lost, my quarterback threw 2 interceptions. And that is the Achilles heel for the aggressiveness slider for both offense and defense. When you're playing a really bad school, like example Iowa, right? Or UTSA, if you're playing schools that you are nowhere close in overall, like you have a 15, 20, 25 overall advantage, slap that slider up to 100 and just beat their ass. But the moment you play against a school that's even slightly relative to your team's overall, like Ohio State is a 91 or 92, I'm a 99, so they're, within a margin of error. I almost lost my, at the time, undefeated season because my quarterback threw 2 picks. So against really bad schools, you can slap that aggressiveness up to 100 and it won't really bother you that much. But the moment you go against decent schools like Ohio, like of equal skill, lower that slider to 75. 75 is far more control and far more tame than 100. 100 is insane. Because again, this was on 75, or this was on 100 because NC State was bad. As you can see, the next game we're going to cover, I barely beat USC. My team was dropping 50, 60, 70 points a week. How in the hell did we only score 24 points? Well, if you check the box score, as you can see, even though my, quarterback was set to 100 aggressiveness, he was out of his mind, he had 1 interception. That's weird. You would expect more interceptions from somebody with 100 aggressiveness. Well, that's because the turnovers didn't come from the interceptions. He also fucking fumbled. So if you're seeing a trend here, the more aggressive your sliders are set to against bad schools, it doesn't matter. They are so below you in terms of talent, in terms of depth, in terms of overall, in terms of skill, in terms of everything. They're just so beneath you. You can have it set to 1,000 and it wouldn't matter. But again, the moment you have it against a semi-equal, I think USC was a 94 or 95 at this point in the rebuild. Because I'm only a little bit better than them, my quarterback doing stupid shit resulted in me almost losing. That 1 fumble, that 1 INT was back-breaking. And eventually it led to the eventual demise of my season, which again, I was doing this for research purposes. I took the L, that way you don't have to in your rebuild. We ended up losing to Miami, and as you could probably guess, this is the game it bit me in the ass. Why did it bite me in the ass? Because Miami is equal to me. We were both 99 overall schools, in which my quarterback threw 3 ducks, and we had no fumbles. Nice. So we lost this game because my quarterback just sucked. So yeah, from my testing, if you're absolutely destroying them in overall, there you go. Play as aggressive as you want. But if they're anywhere close to sniffing you, drop it to 75. And if you were curious just how effective these playbooks are, I got a real funny screen to show you. I love showing this off on my streams. I absolutely love this. So I didn't lose a singular game from 2037 to 2040. As you can see, I went 16-0, 16-0, 16-0, 16-0. That's 64 consecutive wins, which breaks the IRL Oklahoma record by several. And then this year, I went 14-1. My one loss was in the playoffs to Miami. So if you're keeping track, that's 78. I won 78 consecutive games with my coach build, with my playbooks, with the information I know. If you want to know the build, the coach part, you know, the stuff like that, tune into the streams, tune into the episode 1. If you want to know how, you know, to recruit, to get the good players, to make the good players, you know, to build your team well, check out episode 2, and then, you know, this episode, obviously, the playbooks and what have you. And because I know I'm going to get asked the question, what were the stats looking like this year? I got you, broski. So keep in mind, my quarterback's only a 91. Next year, he will be a 99, but this year, I kind of had to deal with a crap quarterback because, you know, stupid deal breaker that is playing time. I despise that with every fiber of my being. Anywho, my quarterback had a 72% completion percentage. He threw for 5K yards and 70 touchdowns, only 8 ducks. But if you think about it, those 8 ducks only came in the last 4 games. So prior to the last 4 games, he had like 61 touchdowns and 0 picks. Rushing, again, we're using the pass-heavy Ohio State playbook, but my running back still had 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns. My backup running back had 500 yards and 13 touchdowns. Even my third-string running back had 150 yards and 6 touchdowns. My running backs averaged 4.9, 4.7, and 5.8 yards per carry, which is insane. But wait, there's more. In the passing game, my wide receiver 1 had 20 touchdowns and 1,800 yards. My wide receiver 2 had 1,400 yards and 25 touchdowns, but keep in mind, he only had 76 catches. That's an insane stat line, by the way. 1 in 3 catches Alfonso Stanford caught was a touchdown. 25 TDs, 75 catches. Insane. My wide receiver 3 even put up 800 yards and 13 touchdowns. Like, no matter which wide receiver I was throwing to, they were feasting. My tight ends, unfortunately, really didn't do too well. 600 yards, 3 touchdowns. But, you know, to be fair, when your receivers are putting up numbers like this, it's kind of hard to just feed everybody. And then for the defense, because I'm going to have those questions like, how good's the defensive playbook? Boom, my defensive end, this guy got 32 sacks. Boom, my other defensive end got 22 sacks. Both my defensive tackles had high single digits for sacks. But don't worry, that's not the biggest flex. My biggest flex is that my third string run stuffing gap specialist D tackle got 2.5 sacks. Like my entire D line, as you can see, was eating. Almost, actually, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 of my players on defense registered at least half of a sack. Pretty much everyone on my defense got a sack at some point in the season. And don't worry, I'm going to cover interceptions. My 99 overall safety had 4 interceptions. My middle linebacker had 3. All of my corners had 3. My backup safety had 2. And then just ducks for days, bro. We had like 20 interceptions this season. It was just insane. It was a crazy season, to be fair. But yeah, if you're curious if the playbooks work, they 100% do. Stop by the streams. I promise you the stuff I'm advertising is not BS, just to show you that I don't, you know, I don't know why I still get these comments, but as you can see, there is no force wins. There you go. I think people who do force win and don't tell people in their YouTube videos, I think they're cringe as fuck. So, fuck those people. I do everything legit. Okay, just to show you back on the original file, I still haven't upgraded my coach. My coach is level 25. I have yet to spend a single token. I have 350 points. I am not going to, just for the sake of this experiment. But I've done nothing but change the aggressiveness of my team and change to the good playbooks. I am going to sim. Again, no edits, no cuts, none of that nonsense. We are the exact different year. So we are going to compare and contrast. Last year, we went 4-8 in the SEC. Or no, we went 2-6 in the SEC, 4-8 overall. And this year, we're just changing the aggressiveness to be 75 because we're a better overall than most people in the SEC. That's kind of why, Georgia. And then I've also, schedule, made it as similar as I could. Obviously, I couldn't replicate everything because some weeks people are there. Anyways, you get the point. So this is, again, no edits, no cuts, no magic, no bullshit. Just the truth. Also, if you're curious why not every 99 overall team is equal, EA is stupid, and they factor in backups for overall in this game. So if you're wondering why you go up against like 99 overall Georgia, Miami, or fucking USC, and you drop like 75 points on their head, that's because even though their backups are really good, their starters aren't. And you could easily obtain a 99 overall team without ever having a player even in the high 90s. So if you ever curious, if you see Georgia or Ohio State or Oregon or someone with a scary high overall, go check their depth chart. I guarantee you most of their team is probably mid to high 80s, possibly low 90s, but there's nobody like crazy good on that team. I hate it. In my opinion, backup shouldn't factor into overall. But again, I don't make the rules. I simply play the game. I'm curious how well we're going to do because we went 4-8 last year. And this year, I have everything on auto. So what do we do this year? And look at that improvement. So we went from being 4-8 to 10-2. And literally all I changed with this roster, having the scouting set to auto, the player progression on auto, everything on auto. I have no upgraded coach. I have nothing like that. All I did was change the aggressiveness and change the playbooks. And there you go. We went from 4-8 to 10-2. Now that's still not very good. We finished pretty back towards the SEC, but oh well, doing a one swing to another pretty big gap. Let's check out our quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, who's not the best in the world. 34 touchdowns, 12 INTs. Mind you, he's only an 87. Rushing running backs, oh my god, our starting running back had 6 yards per carry with 7 touchdowns. Our backup had 4.4 with 13. Our receivers, oh my goodness, 1,300 yards, 6 touchdowns. But again, you see the players, right? A lot of high 80s, 1 low 90. Let's go check out the defense, shall we? Sacks, our best pass rush had 9 sacks. Would have loved to see more. A couple players with INTs, but let's go see how we compare this time around to our SEC brethren, because earlier in the video, we were bottom 3, bottom 5 for pretty much everything. So now, in terms of yards, we are top 5 in yards. We are top 5 in total points, and we are top 5 in points per game. So our offense went from being bottom 3 to top 5, in which it probably could have been better if I manually upgraded Gunnar Stockton and my other players, but you get the point. We went from being bottom 3 to top 5 on offense, and then let's go check out our defense. We had literally the best defense in college football, 18.9 points per game. We gave up a total of 227 points all year. Again, best defense right there. The best defense in terms of yards is, you guessed it, our defense gave up 3,800 yards. You get the point. I've shown you many examples. So just like that, I changed nothing on the roster, have everything set to auto. All I did was just sim the offseason, sim all that nonsense, change the aggressiveness to 75, change the playbooks, and within 1 year, we went from winning 4 games to 10. So yeah, if you have any questions, any experiments, anything you would like to see, let me know down below. I absolutely love your faces, and let's give our shout outs to the people who are on the Wall of Fame. As always, huge shout outs to every single person who takes time out their day to A, watch my content, B, like my content, C, share my content, D, leave a comment, E, showing up to the streams. I appreciate you beautiful people. As always, I hope you have a wonderful morning, evening, night, afternoon, or day, depending on whatever time you watch my content in the future. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, drop me a follow, or sub on Twitch. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you can, become a member. Shout out to our members, True Grit, Johnny, Ben, and Leon. I appreciate y'all. If you can become a member, it does support me a ton, and you get early access to my videos, along with perks in the Discord and VIP privileges, custom videos, you name it, you get it. Check out the perks on the channel. I'll greatly appreciate it. But yeah, guys, I'll see you when I see it. Deuces.